Good morning, everybody. This is Dan Spotts on behalf of the Dalles Area Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the Dalles Chamber's Community Affairs. Today is Thursday, June 18th. Summer solstice only a few days away, which is amazing. It's going that fast. Our guest this morning is Jessica Metta, Executive Director of Mid-Columbia Economic Development District. Welcome, Jessica. And we're going to start with some around the Zoom table updates. So I'm going to start in my upper left-hand corner with Corliss Marsh. Corliss, what's going on?
Good morning, everyone. Corliss Marsh here with the Senior Center and Habitat for Humanity and the library. Today is big kickoff of the summer reading program at the library, so stay away. There's there's two bounce houses, and the parking lot will be full of kids this afternoon. So starting, I think, at 4. So parking lot is going to be closed. So that's the kickoff for, and it's also summer reading for adults. You can go online and belong to the summer reading program, and there's prizes and all kinds of stuff. So join in. And then don't forget, tonight is a big celebration for Lisa at the chamber. So everyone's welcome. Show up. I believe it's 5 o'clock.
Lisa's retirement from the chamber, although she's staying in the Dalles, I understand, which is good news for all.
Oh, that's good. Yep. Okay, great. Yep. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Corliss. There's a neat newsletter too from the library, the electronic newsletter that goes out. Scott McKay, take it away, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Scott McKay, volunteer for Circles of Care and the convener for the Dementia-Friendly Wasco County Partnership. And I have to, just follow up on Corliss. It's amazing, just amazing, all the different activities you can find at the Dalles Library. In fact, if you ever go down to Maupin, you can visit their library. And it's a beautiful facility too. Anyway, that's it. So thank you. Thank you, Dan.
All righty. I'll turn this over to Jacob, and then we'll go to Heather Land. Jacob, what's up, sir?
Good morning, everybody. Jacob Lovick with Mid-Columbia Economic Development District and Mid-Columbia Innovation Hub. I'm going to leave most of my updates for Jessica and let her present. I don't have a lot of upcoming programming events for the Innovation Hub. We're on a summer break for the majority of our programming, so there are some little things here and there we're doing, but yeah, follow our newsletter if you want to keep up with events.
All right. Feel free to put contact information, newsletter information like that in the chat box too. That goes for all. Heather, go ahead. And then we'll go over to Judge Dabalskis.
Good morning. Heather Land, Communication Specialist at Wasco Electric, and I do not have any updates this week. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Heather. Judge Dabalskis?
Joe Dabalskis, Sherman County Judge and Chair of MCEDD. So I'm here to support Jacob and Jessica this morning, just to be their cheerleader.
All right. Thank you, Joe. How's the wheat harvest looking?
Well, it looks like some people are going to start not next week, but the following week. It should be a fairly decent crop, at least at the north end of the county. We got a little more moisture than normal. Well, we got 20% more moisture here at our place, and it's been a cool spring. So right now it's looking good. Of course, the price is only about half of what we want, but we'll see if we can make ends meet, but we'll see.
Okay, that's an encouraging start anyway. Good luck, sir.
Thanks.
Turn it over to Mike Wacker and then to Julie Reynolds.
Good morning, everyone. I just have a couple of quick reports. We had our old-fashioned Flag Day at the museum last Sunday. Had a good time. The hot weather, I think, kept people like from the nursing homes and the veterans home from coming. But anyhow, we had like 12 Cascade singers, sang 4 or 5 patriotic songs, about 7 or 8 Boy Scouts. Did the flag ceremony and raised the flag. The guy from Troutdale came to speak and was a good speaker. Anyhow, it was a good day. Just wish more people had been there. Also, I'd like to congratulate Jacob Anderson talked at Kiwanis last week, and he was really good. He talked about the the Hood River White Salmon Bridge and economic development in the Dalles. And he was just his style was so good, just the way anyhow. And the speaker this week is Carolyn Grew from United Way. Thanks. Have good days.
Good. Thank you, Mike. I'm glad that Jake was able to provide an update. He's been on the Bridge Authority for some time, and we're fortunate that he's with the city. Economic development. Julie Reynolds and then Roger. Julie
Reynolds. I'm on the Fort Dalles Museum Commission, and I missed Flag Day, but I talked to our coordinator, Bob Pollock, yesterday, and it sounded like it was a really good event, and I'm very sorry I missed it. I'm also with St. Paul's Historic Chapel downtown, and we'll be having some tours this summer, not probably every week, but there'll be a sign out when we're ready to let people come in. Hope you stop by.
All right. Thank you, Julie. Roger, and then we'll wrap with Mark Cedar.
Thank you. Roger Nichols, on the board of the original Wasco County Courthouse, and recently completed a project to put 165 audio recordings made over the last 50 years there, available for people from $5 to $1, depending how many you buy. Check out the list, which is available several places online, including on Columbia Community Connections. And you can drop by the courthouse. It's right behind the Chamber of Commerce. They're open Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And also, I'm on the Gorge Commission, so if you have any questions about that, give me a call. And my information is there in the talk.
All right. Thank you, Roger. And Mark Cedar, are you on?
Yes, I am. Mark Cedar, Cedar Architecture and Urban Design. Just listening, we were the architects for the Northern Wasco County Aquatic Center, and also worked with McKay and Jessica on projects in the past.
All right. Thank you for joining, Mark.
You bet.
Now put on my One Community Health hat very briefly on the board there. Since last summer, we are celebrating our 40th anniversary this summer, coming up in August, and also starting a nonprofit foundation for One Community Health, health clinic serving both sides of the Columbia Gorge, and looking forward to 40th celebration. Many of you may remember it as La Clinica del Carino. And with that, I will turn it over to Jessica Metta, Mid-Columbia Economic Development District. Jessica, you're a co-host, so take it away.
Thank you so much, Dan, for the invite, and thank you all for being here today. I'm going to share a slideshow.
It's coming in, it looks like. There we go.
Okay. Do you, I think you're seeing like the notes thing too, aren't you?
Yeah, we can see the
Okay.
see the notes view. It's coming in fine.
Uh-huh.
I think if the
Oh, there you go. That looks better.
there we go.
Yeah, so thank you again for being here. I know actually we do so many different things that I know a lot of our staff have presented probably over the last year. I think you had Sarah Crook as our travel trainer kind of talk about her work to get folks to ride the transit system and all the different things that we offer in the Dalles as operators of the link. I think Jacob has presented about the Innovation Hub. I think Andrew on my team has presented about his work with Rowena Recovery, which we just had the 1-year anniversary a week ago. So this will be kind of an overview and touch on, I guess, some of the pieces that I'm leading. So, our mission, it focuses on job creation, especially family wage jobs over our 6-county district, which just as of March now includes Gilliam County. So we were created in 1969 by the 5 original counties, Hood River, Wasco, Sherman in Oregon, and then Skamania and Klickitat in Washington. And a number of years ago, Gilliam had started to reach out saying they felt more affinity with our region than with the economic development district that they were a part of, which focused on a lot of counties in Eastern Oregon. And so we are actually federally designated by the U.S. Economic Development Administration. And so between the MCEDD board wanting to just take a measured approach and make sure that changing the boundaries was the right decision, and then the EDA's federal process, it took quite a while, and as of March was just official. So we now include Gilliam County, and actually the last piece related to that is later today at the MCEDD, we have our quarterly MCEDD board meeting. We'll vote on amending the bylaws to officially add them to the board. The MCEDD board is well, and now with Gilliam County, it will be even bigger. It's 24 people. We have a county commissioner from each of the counties, a representative of the cities of each of the counties. We have an Oregon Ports and a Washington Ports, an Oregon Chambers and a Washington Chambers rep. And we have 8 private sector representatives that cover some of our key industries like higher education, healthcare, high tech, agriculture. It is, I really like our board. Joe is our chair. He's our biggest cheerleader for sure. And yeah, that's where so these are just kind of some highlights of different ways we support the Dalles, and then I'll kind of break into our some of the broader picture of our work. We are that like boots on the ground for the U.S. Economic Development Administration. If anybody is applying for an EDA grant, they need to work with us. They need to be included in our economic development strategy, which I'll talk about later. We can help amplify legislative outreach or education just with that regional perspective. It can be really useful as our partners are working on projects for us to help just kind of underline how important some of these things are on a broader scale. So like the Dog River Pipeline was really important to the Dalles, but at the same level, it's important for the region because we need the Dalles to be a strong partner and to have the utility services that it needs to grow and thrive. So that's kind of a role that we can play. I use this slide from when I also recently talked to the Port of the Dalles. So business lending, I would just say for everybody, not just for port clients. And I'll have a slide on our business loan program. We also do a lot with grant writing and grant administration, especially around infrastructure projects like the Dog River Pipeline. We really do see ourselves as a service organization. We are supported by a little bit of dues from each of the cities, the counties, and the ports that we use to match our a kind of a standing grant that we get from the EDA. But we really think of all of those municipalities and ports and chambers as our partners, and we're here to help however we can with economic development, which is a broad thing. So we group our work into 3 areas: business assistance, technical assistance, regional coordination. And under business assistance, one of the longest ways that we've served the region is with a business loan program, which I have a next slide on that. I'll dive in. We, over the last few years, especially as a result of some funding from Business Oregon, really leaning into supporting entrepreneurship and innovation, we've been able to get some competitive funding from Business Oregon, and have really built out our team with Jacob here and Jason Hartman, providing more training and technical assistance for entrepreneurs, really working closely together with the Small Business Development Center, and trying to fill the gaps of connecting our businesses with what they need to be successfare. We've long had an industry cluster development approach, which is what are the sectors here that have a lot of activity, and if we kind of put some more resources to it, we can help them continue to grow and be successful. One in particular that we've been involved with for a long time is the tech industry with the Gorge Tech Alliance as an organization we support. On the business lending program, so since 1980, we have it's a revolving loan fund. So as businesses pay us off, we get those dollars back out the door. Our loan funds originally came from the EDA or from USDA Rural Development. We also have a little bit of money that we receive from the state of Oregon for affordable housing, well, attainable housing, which is like workforce housing. So these are some examples in the Dalles of some of our clients. And I also wanted to mention Brick City is actually one of our newest clients. We helped them purchase that building that they're moving into, and their grand opening, if folks haven't seen it yet, will be July 11th at 11 a.m. So we're very excited for Brick City, but especially we focus on businesses that are not able to qualify for a commercial loan for one reason or the other. For a bank to jump in, a lot of times they want to see 6 months at least of profitability. If you're just getting started, there's no way you can do that, even if it can take years sometimes for businesses to show profitability. So that's where we help you get started, get your feet under you, show that you are a bankable client, and then kind of graduate to commercial financing. The lending program is really a hands-on piece of the work that we do. Here's some statistics. So since 1980, 329 loans made, 24.3 million, 2,700 jobs created or retained. And we, last calendar year was 1.1 million in new loans. Besides MCEDD's own pot of money, we also manage loan funds that are specific for the scenic area, which is called the Oregon Investment Board. On the Oregon side, another entity manages the Washington side. And then there's also another small entity, Mount Hood Economic Alliance. So we actually have 3 lending boards that we manage. I will say it's mid-June and we've already given out more than 1.1 million this year. So this year has been busy. And Amy Beaver on my team is our loan fund manager, and she does a great job. On the technical assistance grouping of what we do, this is where we have project management staff that really work with our local communities to talk about, what are the projects that they're interested in to help their communities be successful. How can we keep those moving forward? Often that focuses a lot on infrastructure, which is, water, wastewater, broadband, and helping identify funding opportunities for their projects, writing the grants. And then once they get the grants, helping administer them. These are a couple examples of that administration. Lyle Market, a nonprofit in Klickitat County, received a grant or applied for a grant to install some electric vehicle charging stations at the Lyle Market, but didn't have the capacity to actually administer the project. And so they contracted with us to do that. And then the bottom one is the city of Cascade Locks, their wastewater system that they built a whole new one a few years ago. I think that's all I'll say on the technical assistance. The regional coordination that's where if there's issues that are affecting more than one entity, where we can pull people together to work together. That's definitely a role that's unique for us with that regional perspective. We've had a brownfields project, the city of the Dalles, and Dan actually kicked it off a number of years ago with a fund focused on the Dalles and Wasco County. And then we applied for a second fund for the 5-county region, which helps people identify if their properties have contamination and make a plan for remediation. It doesn't do the remediation itself, but that's been hopefully Dan's talked plenty about the Brownfields program. It's been very successful in the Dalles, and we've helped broaden that scope. We've done projects. Now I think we have done them in all 5 of our original counties. On the transportation side, we do a lot with helping coordinate the regional transit system. The More around 15 years ago, we started bringing the 5 transit providers together to talk about their work and how they can work better together and learn from each other. We called it the Gorge TransLink Alliance. And we still use that name somewhat, but we've really leaned down to just calling it Gorge Transit, gorgetransit.com. We've created the Gorge Transit Pass, which for $40 you can use any of the fixed routes in the 4 counties that have them, which is a great opportunity. You can go all the way to Portland using transit. We've developed like a regional transit strategy. And then also on the regional side, one of the most important pieces that we do, and one of the things that I lead, is our economic development strategy. So this is actually a requirement of the EDA funding that we receive, where every 5 years we really bring the whole region together to talk about where we're going, where we want to go, and make a new 5-year plan. This was the last one, which you can see expires in 2027. And so we are actually starting right now on the process to create the new one, which begins in a month. With the first public session will be July 23rd in Stevenson. And so each of the sessions builds out a section of the plan and really builds on each other. So first we'll look at, what is our economic and demographic data for the region really look like? Where are we right now? What do the trends look like? So that kind of helps ground us in our current and those trends. The next session will be hopefully in Goldendale in late September. And at that point, we'll be looking at, based on the data, what are our lead industry sectors? Where do we see the most innovation happening? Where do we see opportunities for growth in the future that we want to potentially lean into? And then from there, we dive into that SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I think we'll be October 15th at the college to focus on Wasco County. And then vision and goals is the next one. We come up with strategies. So under each of those goal areas, which currently we have 4 goal areas, and potentially we'll keep, there's strong businesses, robust workforce, resilient infrastructure, and powerful regional collaboration. And under the infrastructure, there's 5 sub goal areas of, energy, transportation, broadband, water, wastewater, housing. There might even be one more. So really there's a lot of areas that, and as I said, it's, by the region, for the region. We don't see this as just a plan that's dictating our work, for example. It really is what a lot of our partners are doing as well. And then that final session, we'll talk about metrics, like how do we know that we're making progress? Each of the sessions, besides having these very participatory discussions around these areas, has an opportunity for each of the counties to provide a brief overview of, what does the economy in that county really look like? So it's an opportunity for our partners to really teach all of us a little bit more about their area. We also then will end each session with an optional industry tour to kind of, which those are always really fun. Anytime you can visit like a factory or, I don't know, business, just making hands-on things is really exciting. I think we're still trying to pin it down, but the first one, I think we will tour the WKO mill in Carson, which is pretty cool. And the Wasco County one, actually, I knew right away, I wanted to tour the Skills Center because I love that place. And I love all of the ways that they've built that out and how the college has really used that to, sorry, you probably see my battery's going to run out. How the college has really used that to boost the local industry. Okay, hold on.
Jessica, I put a link to the economic strategy in the chat box there as
Okay.
well. I'm glad you're going to WKO. That's a fascinating place. I come from the logging industry, my parents, and to see the technology applications that take place now in that industry is just absolutely fascinating. So good choice.
Let me plug
I
my
want to give you
computer.
some time there while you're working on the battery. I had that happen on a meeting just a week ago. My battery died in my mouse, and there's nothing like having a dead mouse on your desk. I could run with that one. Anyway, we'll take questions for Jessica. You're covering a lot of ground, and I love it. Um, I know one of the areas, but I don't want to sidetrack you. When you let me know when you're ready to
Okay,
go back
I'm
on.
back.
All good? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll just end one of the larger events that we do annually. The Economic Symposium has been really popular. It's always the first Friday in November. We have our regional economists kind of share an update of that data, which this year is going to be different because of the SEDS process, but so we're not exactly holding it this year. We dive into one of our industries to learn more about how that industry is doing. And it's just a great networking opportunity across the region. So that's really, we have a newsletter where we have all of these things in there. We have highlights of Jacob's events, for example. So if you do want that, I'll put my email in the chat and you can email me. Yeah.
Jessica, I would start off. You mentioned something about a different process in terms at the federal level. Have there been some changes there on the economic symposium?
Not on the symposium. I mean, the symposium, we're doing it different just because of the SEDS process.
Oh, SEDS. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My hearing.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry I said SEDS without making sure folks know that's the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. So updating that 5-year plan.
Okay, sure.
Because we're going to be using like that process to try to bring people together throughout the year.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Questions around the table for Jessica?
I recognize that wasn't a whole lot of time, so I'm happy to dive into any more of those pieces if you're interested in it.
Starting off with Roger. Thank you, Jessica. Roger, take it away.
Yeah, I just wanted one of the things you touched on is the Oregon Investment Board, and I think one of the people, of course, the Washington Investment Board, and when they got some new, this mostly affects the Washington side, but people might be interested in the fact that originally the Klickitat County could not take part in asking for money from the Washington Investment Board because they had not enacted the matching ordinance to be able to direct the scenic area stuff on their own portion of the scenic area. But in the last 1.5 or 1.3 million, whatever it was, we finally got out of the feds from their initial promise 40 years ago. That came through a different source. So I think it was the USDA, so that the people in Klickitat County can now apply for those. But I just want to say what a great job that McKay has been doing in the OIB. As somebody who's been on the commission for some years, it's been wonderful to watch that happen. So good job,
Thanks,
Jessica.
Roger. We got 360,000 for a commercial hangar at the airport, which is a City of the Dalles and a Klickitat County project. We finally got those dollars out the door, and that one we actually have a deadline to get all the USDA money out of September 30th, and so we've been scrambling. I think we'll make it. I did remember a couple of things I wanted to touch on. Well, so one along the lines of the Oregon and Washington Investment Board, they did receive money as part of creating the National Scenic Area. The Gorge Commission really talks about the work of those investment boards as being part of their economic development focus. They are governed by it's called an economic vitality plan that, like the SEDS, like our economic development strategy, has to be updated every 5 years. And that one is actually on schedule to be updated this year. So we're just starting next week. Will be kind of, and it's a much more limited, because it essentially talks about the lending goals for the OIB and the WIB. So it's not it's not the broad community process of the CEDS, and it looks a lot to the CEDS for its perspective of like what's really happening in the region. But if anybody wants more information about that, definitely let me know. I did want to also mention, since your last meeting would have been the Gorge Pitch Fest, which is one of our signature programs. And it's been several years now where through grants from Business Oregon, we have staff to put the event on, but we really reach out to the local community to ask for sponsorship, that then we turn around and provide as a grant award to businesses that are selected to pitch their business to a group of judges. Jacob could probably give the official statistics, but this year we had applicants in the 20s who applied to pitch their business. They're reviewed, and 5 of them are selected. Of those, several were in the Dalles, and the winner was Vibe Consignment. So was in the Dalles, who walked away with a $10,000 check to really help her business grow. Karina's been a great entrepreneur, great supporter of the Dalles. So definitely encourage you, and is also one of our business loan clients. So definitely, there you go. 28 applications, 11 from the Dalles or Wasco County, and 4 of the 5 finalists were from the Dalles. So the Dalles is definitely well represented. It was at the Granada. This year's was a very dramatic event because it was during the storm when the power went out. But the good news is that everybody was able to present their business with, their slides and everything. And right as the judges were about to deliberate on who to give it to, that's when the power went out. So yes, I missed it myself, but I heard how dramatic it was. So if anybody has questions about Pitch Fest, that's Jacob's area. A few other things that we do to benefit the Dalles on the transit side, we have free downtown passes, free transit passes for anybody that lives or works downtown, and that's in partnership with the city of the Dalles. We also have a really fun summer program for middle and high schoolers, where if they ride the bus, they can collect free prizes, like a ice cream from Shannon's Ice Cream. I think there's something from Brick City, places that you can get to on the bus. And we really use the library to help get the word out about that. So it's a great partnership between a lot of businesses to just really encourage more youth to ride the transit system. We're trying to lean into, we've been doing this in Hood River and in the Dalles, and the Dalles has had less uptake on the youth system. It seems so. Anyway, we're trying some new things this summer to try to get more youth on the bus. And I should, before since we do have Judge Joe here, and he is one of our biggest cheerleaders, we do a lot in Sherman County in particular. Some of our work we do for all of our partners, but some we actually are contracted to provide extra service. And so that's where we serve as the countywide economic development support for Sherman County through a contract. And we've also been contracted to do grant administration. There's a well in Biggs Junction that took a decade to put in, and a lot of it was hand-holding from Jackie Shy, who had been on my staff for a while. So Joe, if you want to add anything about MCEDD.
There's no way I can follow you, Jessica.
Oh.
You covered so much stuff, but everybody that heard that will understand why I'm such a cheerleader of MCEDD. And I say this frequently. I said it yesterday. When something comes up in Sherman County, I make 3 phone calls: MCEDD, AOC, the Association of Oregon Counties, and Regional Solutions, and not necessarily in that order, but that's MCEDD is definitely one of those entities that makes my job a whole lot easier, and I can get something done because of MCEDD. So thank you, Jessica.
Thanks, Joe.
And I felt so strongly about what MCEDD did helping us get that water project done. When you look at the plaque on the building outside of the the pump house, I went ahead and put MCEDD on there with Jackie's name on it. So there's the county court, the architect, something about USDA and MCEDD. So because that's what that made it. It took a half a decade off the process having MCEDD there.
Thanks, Joe.
I would second that, having worked with McKay for many, many years, and just one of many examples, the college aviation hangar at Dallesport. McKay is the go-between, the liaison between the applicant and EDA, and providing the guidance of what to say, what not to say, what to ask, and how to ask it when you're working with federal staff. That is so important. And the comprehensive economic development strategy itself, if you're writing a federal grant, if you're writing a nonprofit foundation grant, any type of grant, one of the first things they're going to ask for is, do you have a regional strategy? And can you cite your project in that regional strategy? And if you can say yes to both of those questions, then you've just gained some pretty critical points in the scoring process. And that's where you go. You go to that SEDS and check it out, because and the process that Jessica described earlier of going through the various priority setting processes that lead up to that document, that is critical. And that's just two things of so many, many, many things.
Oh, thanks.
Other questions for Jessica? All right, Jessica, I'll keep it going. How about broadband? What's the latest on broadband? Regional strategies for getting that out to rural communities.
We have, I would say, some of our broadband work has kind of taken a step back over the last few years. In particular, we had a staff person, Carrie Pipinich, who was very steeped in broadband, and it's such a technical thing that in some ways we've lost some ground after when she moved on. So from a regional perspective, I'd say there's not as much that we're engaged on. In Wasco County, however, we've reconvened. There's a broadband action team to really talk about how we can encourage more of its deployment across the county. We've been partnering with Q Life, especially now that Q Life is staffed with Dr. Liz Lance. There's a lot of just offering support and helping her with grant writing. We actually did just successfully write a grant with D21 and that's where, I was gonna say, there's my board packet. I know it's in the staff notes, but anyway, it was a grant with D21 to get, here we go. Look at that. I just found it. $250,000 digital connectivity technology program grant with the ESD and local schools to expand access to internet-enabled Chromebooks for students and community members in Wasco County. So it'll be device lending, a device lending library for education, employment, and telehealth, with service focused on North Wasco, South Wasco, and Dufur, and public access through libraries and community partners. So that was, so we have been doing some broadband work especially in Wasco County, but a little bit less so on the regional level. Roger?
I'm curious how adding Gilliam County has affected your work plan, whether any interesting synergies are coming out of that, or how it's changed what you're doing.
So we haven't really seen it kind of kick in. A lot of it's been focused on actually like the new fiscal year. So in 2 weeks we'll do do a little bit more work out there. I have been out there a few times over the last few years as we've kind of we had to, for example, add an amendment to our existing economic development strategy to include Gilliam County. And so it took some visits out there to just like learn a little bit more about their partners and those synergy opportunities out there. They have the Port of Arlington, so we're working to plug them in with our local ports. There's a lot of, we saw a lot of similarities, especially with Klickitat County. If you think about like the landfill, solar, and wind energy, they are very similar and work together a lot right now with Sherman County. We will have a small contract for some extra boots on the ground starting July 1st, and we're working to hire somebody right now, a replacement position that will be out there kind of working with the partners to see what they need. One of the things I know they're interested in is they do have quite a bit of money that they receive from the landfill and other agreements that more recent agreements they've negotiated, with Amazon or different wind or solar farms, and are looking for ideas of how best to deploy those resources, and have kind of talked about us helping convene some conversations around that. We're excited to try to get our business lending resources out in Gilliam County. And I think they definitely are interested in some like grant writing for infrastructure projects.
Thank you. I think this is the first expansion you've done in, I don't know how long, at least all the time I
Ever.
can remember. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. Do you expect this to continue at some point?
Hopefully not.
Okay. I was just wondering if you reached your limits, but okay, thanks.
Yeah. Scott?
Yeah, I think the Gilliam County addition makes eminent sense, but yeah, beyond that, I can see having a large board already, Jessica.
Yeah.
Scott
Yeah.
McKay.
And Jessica, I understand there may be some funding challenges regarding the transportation in the region. And so that always goes to the question that we always ask, is that how does funding look for MCEDD within the new administration, the pros and cons and the challenges you may or may not face?
Yeah, good question. So part of the board meeting today will be adopting our fiscal year 27 budget, which, as you noted, and we had sent out a press release, was, especially on the transportation side, was a little challenged. A lot of our transit funding for the link is like the amounts that we get. Some of it is formula grants that we just we operate the dial-a-ride on. They tell us how much we're going to get every year, and that amount hasn't really changed very much. But as you can imagine, our expenses have changed quite a bit in terms of fuel, wanting to pay competitive wages. We provide cost of living adjustments. Our medical benefits and insurance go up 17% every year. So as our expenses increase, if the amount of money that we have doesn't increase, then that means that ultimately you'd have to cut service. We do receive the payroll transit tax. So folks ask, where does that money go? So if for those of us that have a paycheck on your paycheck, it'll say, transit tax, which is 0.01%. And of the dollars that are collected in Wasco County, 90% of that actually goes just right back to the link. And then 10% of it goes into a competitive fund for statewide projects. And we have also gotten some of those competitive grants. So but we were part of the gas tax, and it was less visible. The gas tax measure that was on the ballot would have doubled the amount of the payroll tax, the transit tax. So obviously then all of our troubles would have been solved for a little while. But nobody was thinking that was passing. So nobody was counting on that. I know as the legislature is going to go back to the table to figure out how to fund our transportation system, definitely all the transit providers are at the table asking for help as well. What else was I going to say? Some of our services that we provide are with competitive grants, and so that's always a risk. The Dalles right now our biggest hole is around the regular bus routes that go around the Dalles. is part of a competitive grant that ends in December. And the next round of funding, ODOT's kind of shifted their timing. And even if we are successful with the next grant, there's at least a 6-month gap between when the last grant will end and when the new grant will start. We haven't heard yet if we're successful, but so we at least thought there was going to be a gap. So that's kind of on the transit side. The federal administration hasn't necessarily impacted that negatively, actually. On the economic development side, we've definitely seen, projects that partners worked on for years where the funding was lost. I'm still heartbroken over the childcare learning project that was supposed to happen at Chenoweth Elementary or Chenoweth Middle School. Yeah, that one still breaks my heart. There's not a lot of concern right now for federal funding for MCEDD. But as both states are having budget challenges, that's a little bit more concerning because we have benefited from some Business Oregon funding, as I mentioned. We do receive ODOT and WashDOT funding for the regional transportation coordination. So all of those pieces we are just keeping an eye on.
Question, and we have a question from Corliss in the chat, and then Julie, I think you had your hand raised first, so go ahead.
Jessica, a little while back, you mentioned landfill, and I just wondered if MCEDD was involved in any way with, I don't know, monitoring or supporting, and this may be way off base, but anything that happens with the landfill in Wasco County?
We're not, I'll say we're paying attention to the discussions around the concerns with the transportation system, with the projects that they want to bring from out of Portland.
Right.
But at that level, honestly, it's more making sure that the right partners are talking to each other, and just encouraging that. Yeah. So beyond that, we don't really have a role.
Thank you.
Corliss, would the senior center be able to use the service? You mean the transit service? We definitely do dial a ride.
No,
and
not. Your services like applying for grants, things like that. I mean, if we apply for a grant, can we come help you get your help with assistance? I mean, like how to do it or.
I would say on a potentially more limited basis, just it has to have like some kind of connection to economic development. Not that senior center doesn't, but potentially, I would say potentially. I think we could potentially fit that under some of like our Wasco County work. We definitely could write letters of support, like those kinds of things are easy.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Other questions for Jessica?
Roger.
Sorry, broken record here, but this is not so much a question. It's sharing a bit of information I picked up yesterday at the Wasco County Commission meeting. Scott Hagee announced that he'd been on the board of the Center for Living, and that they're about to receive an $11 million grant to build an 24-bed psychiatric, substance abuse care facility in the Dalles. I said they've already got a plot of land picked out, and they're talking to contract workers. There was big news I wasn't aware of. I don't know if you had any hand in that or any background on that one.
Wow.
Oh, actually, I hadn't heard that yet. We have a list of key infrastructure kind of priority projects, and the facility that they had been pursuing, which was the behavioral health facility out at the Wasco Yard, or
I don't know if that's the same as this one. I know that
the
other one.
Resolution Center. That's what they
Yeah,
called it.
yeah. And that was from a different outfit. I don't think that was well,
Yeah, I know.
Jacob
They
knows.
they had some legislative issues with that
Okay.
project. Anyway, Jacob, did you have something?
Sorry, I wanted to give you a softball too. I feel like I spent a lot of my time consuming negative news. So I wanted to know, as the executive director, when you're looking at the SWOT for the SEDS, what are some opportunities or like bright things on the horizon, either for the region or bigger than that? What are some things that you're excited about?
Okay, I'll answer that, but I guess let me finish Roger's question. We were not, obviously we were not involved in that grant. We did the last time when Wasco County got a grant that built Mid-Columbia Center for Living. At that point, we helped with the grant administration on that project, and so that could be a potential role for us with this current one. But beyond that, that's it.
Yeah, good. I would check with them right away.
Yeah. Scott is actually he's our Wasco County Commissioner on the board, so I will hopefully see him today, but I'll check with him. Opportunities, I think that the Gorge does have, which I've been told actually, especially now that we include Gilliam County, they told me they do not consider themselves the Gorge. So I'm trying to lean into using the Mid-Columbia. I feel like I think the Mid-Columbia region still is a really strong one across the state with the amount of economic diversity that we have, which has kind of helped, bolster our communities during different ups and downs. I think there's a lot of going on in the different industries, tech industry, healthcare. There's a lot of innovation happening at Klickitat Valley Health we're hoping to tour that when we do our meeting up in Goldendale. I feel like this region, one of our biggest strengths is how well we work together. And across state lines, across communities, I think there's just a really strong spirit of collaboration that isn't necessarily true in other regions. And I do feel like that's alone is a huge opportunity for us. I don't know if that's anything super exciting like data centers.
Scott, go ahead.
For example, maybe we gave my sister came through town on the cruise and going up the Columbia River, and we gave a ride around town for a couple of the individuals on that cruise and showing them the Dalles and everything like that. And I found it was kind of difficult to show them someplace you've lived for 40, 50 years because everything's just normal. But so you want to hit the highlights. But one of the comments from Larry, the gentleman, was that back in his hometown, what he said was that he was really impressed by the vitality of the downtown, the Dalles, and the town that he had grown up is basically dead and doesn't have much activity at all. And I was thinking to myself, oh, I guess maybe we do because we're always focusing on what we don't have and forget about what we do have, like Jacob was talking about, all the positives. And so it gave me a whole new perspective of, oh, we do have our challenges, but I mean, we could do better, but we're doing okay. So it was kind of a positive thing to hear about the downtown and to, celebrate what we do have.
Just focusing on the Dalles in particular, right? I've been in this with McKay for 17 years now. And just in that time, like the Dalles has done so much with its downtown. I mean, I know there's still, vacant buildings here and there, and there's always challenges, but I think the Dalles especially works really well together and just has so much so much new activity happening with like young business owners, like, really leaning into making this place better. So I think the Dalles is exciting.
Yeah, I think it's a key point. We tend to focus on the challenges, and we get so wrapped up and at the detail level of trying to push things along. And it's important to step back and look at the broader picture and see what has been accomplished. And one of the unique things, I think, Jessica, maybe totally unique, being a federally recognized by state economic development entity, there are not very many of those, I don't think, in the U.S. crossing the state line.
That is true. We have a wonderful national association. I really enjoy going to they have an annual training conference, and I've tried to find other bi-state. I didn't think that any existed, but there's one or two. But
Yeah,
across the
very
country, it is very rare. And that alone is an opportunity. Sometimes we're able to get funding that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to get because people are so fascinated by the bi-state that we're working together.
And here in the Columbia Gorge, so few organizations officially cross that state line. And from at the state level, you've always got the challenge of state agencies saying, "Oh no, we can't do anything because you're on the other side of the line there." The feds, I think, appreciate it and those levels of cooperation. But MCEDD and United Way, they're with the Housing Authority, but relatively few. So we are very fortunate in that regard. Coming up at the end of the hour here, other questions for Jessica. And Jessica, I don't know if you have your contact information in the chat already, but
I'll put it
please
in
go
there.
ahead and it's a link to the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy is in there. And if there are no other questions, I can give people about 2 minutes of your morning back here.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much for the invite, Dan. Thanks again for everybody for coming.
Thank you, Jessica, for again, Jessica, my appreciation for your moving your schedule around so many times at the last minute there, and that's on me. There's confusion there, so
I don't have
deeply
anything
appreciate it.
normally booked at 7 a.m. on Thursday, so.
Okay. All right, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week.